Hey, this is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Today I've got a guest, Mr. Ben Horton. He's going to join us here momentarily, and I had so much fun interviewing him. He's got a beautiful wife, 3 lovely daughters, and he's been able to be home thanks to his exploding Amazon business that's taken off. He's doing really, really well. Now, here's an example of a guy who's doing private label. He's come through our coaching program. He's got his own products, and they're doing well. He's also got some PPP, proven product partnering strategies going on. And that's simply, as we'll describe more in this episode, where you help other brands get on Amazon and you get paid a percent for having done so. He's making some good money from that as well. He did about $300,000 of business in 2020. He shares with us on this show at about a 36% margin. So he's got a really nice business. He used to be in ministry full time, and this has kind of replaced that for him to where he's still able to do the things he's passionate about, but he's got the flexibility. He's home with his family, and he's got the freedom to do the things that he wants to do when he needs to do them. It's just a beautiful success story. And I'm so proud that he started his journey of e-commerce through the Proven Amazon course, which you'll hear him talk about. That link will be in the show notes at silentjim.com, of course, for our course, which has helped so many people get started building successful businesses online. And he also came through, like I mentioned, our coaching program, jimcockrumcoaching.com. And if you're interested in talking to us about maybe helping you grow your business, we'd love to bring you on board as our next student if it's a good fit. So give us a call. Love to talk to you about it. The information is on jimcockrumcoaching.com. This is one of those episodes that we turned on the cameras. We have a guest. So if you're watching on YouTube, you already know that. But if you're listening, we do have links in the show notes to our YouTube versions of our show as well. If you want to come watch and see us talking and interacting, that's cool. But if you're listen only, which is the vast majority of the people who watch our show, or listeners only, actually, who listen to our show, we love having you here as well. But for those on YouTube, quick note, remember, most episodes aren't on YouTube. So go to silentjim.com and you can see the rest of our great shows with all of our good guests and interviews that we do. This is a good long episode full of practical ideas, practical strategies. We didn't talk a whole lot about replens today. We've had a nice long run of replen success stories with our episodes. Today we're talking private label and PPP, proven product partnering, and a guy with multiple income streams. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Hey, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, we would sure appreciate any feedback that you want to give us. A thumbs up, subscribe. And if you didn't realize it, if you want to get a heads up notice anytime we have a new episode, you can go to silentjim.com/updates. And you can get the free app called Telegram. And the only thing we use it for is to send you updates about new podcast episodes and an occasional announcement or two, maybe along the way, if it's interesting to you. It's free. You can drop off anytime you want, but it's a good way to get notices when our new episodes do pop out there. Okay. God bless you, business building warrior. Let's jump over and get Mr. Ben Horton on the line right now. So Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, excited to be here, Jim.
Well, you and I talked a little bit offline. Tell me what you were just sharing about this podcast and your history with it.
Yeah. So, my journey really began back in, I know the date because it's when I purchased Pack, which is how I got involved with this group and with you and all that. And I actually didn't know there was a Facebook group. I didn't know there was a podcast. So I kind of came in a different way. But it was May 12th, 2019. So what is that? About a year and a half ago.
Right. Yeah. As we're recording. Right.
Yeah. So, but just, this podcast for me, once I figured out about it, I listened to it going to work and coming home from work every single day, which really, really helped me, so, I really hope that, as we talk today, that it just encourages those that are kind of where I was, as they are continuing their business journey. So,
yeah. And that's what kind of prompted you'd sent me a message on Facebook Messenger and told me a little bit about your story. And I said, hey, interested in the podcast? And you said, if it'll help someone else out the way it helped me. Absolutely.
That's right.
I love that response, man. Sometimes people are a little nervous to get on the show, and not so much because of the nerves of being on a podcast, but will my employer find out? Or, I'm not quite ready to have people know who I am and my business. And I understand all those reasons. But when someone's like, hey, yeah, I'd love to contribute to this community that's given me so much, that's a great heart behind that answer too. I love it. And I'm so glad you're joining us today, Ben.
Yeah.
So let's continue your story. I want to hear more about the journey that started here a little over a year and a half ago.
Yeah. So I was in ministry, vocational ministry for 11 years. I was in the business world before that, and really just had a heart for helping start churches around the country. So my wife and I have done that for, 11 years. And we loved it. My last stint was with a larger church organization, being a church consultant, helping churches, continue to do the great ministry they're doing. And so I traveled a lot. Loved it. I'm very entrepreneurial minded. So, I love systems. I love building teams, that kind of thing. So that was really fun. But just always had this wrestling inside of me, really since I was, people that knew me when I was younger, probably since I was in high school. I always wanted to own my own business. But finally felt like it was the right time for me to start doing something on the side. And so it was just through a couple of random conversations that I knew that you could sell product on Amazon and specifically like ship it into Amazon. So I'd never heard of FBA. I didn't know what that meant. So I just, got on the internet, started just kind of Googling, learning about like, what is FBA? What is it? That kind of thing. Then I just started looking up courses, and I knew that's the direction I wanted to go. Cause I've just learned that like, the best investment, I've heard you say this, the best investment you can have is in yourself. And
Right.
so I just knew like, if I could go find a course, something to get me going, it would just speed things along for me. So started doing research, saw several different courses, but yours just kept popping back up on the screen. And so ended up taking the plunge. I bought Pack. And I remember watching about 30 minutes of videos on May 12th, and it was dinner time. So I went downstairs and I looked across the table and my wife in the eyes, and I had tears in my face. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to do this, and it's going to work.
Wow.
And it's, yeah.
What was behind that emotion, man? Fill me in. I want to know what was going on there.
I think I finally like got just a small taste and done enough research to know that like there was something that I could learn, I could grow and build. I could do it on the side, and then it could become something that I could do full time at some point. And it kind of hit all my wirings. I'm a systems guy. I'm a builder, so I love building from the ground up. And so, but I don't know, I'm obviously, being in ministry, I believe in God's leading for so many different things in our life. And so for me, I just really felt like I was being prompted that, hey, you got the green light to go start a business. Cause I had tried in the past, and it just never felt like I was really supposed to focus on the ministry I was doing.
Right.
And so, this is the first time I felt that. And, so
That's
I just,
great.
I don't know why.
What was your wife's response? Was she on board pretty fast, or did she have to come around, or what was
Yeah, she's always been very supportive. We communicate really well. We're just super transparent. And I just said, hey, listen, I said, because it was May, I said, hey, will you give me 7 months in this year? Will you just let me burn the midnight oil and work hard, take out a little bit of family time between now and 7 months? We'll be really clear on what that's going to look like. Will you just carry an extra boulder for an extra 7 months while I work hard on this? Now, if it doesn't work after 7 months, we'll reevaluate and go from there.
That's so good.
Yeah. And so,
man, that's incredible. I love that. 7
yeah,
months, give me the rest of the year. And
yeah, just give me 7 months. Yeah.
It's
And
that
so,
very intense, focused effort that I like to talk about. Like, because there is some sacrifice in there. Now you could have probably gotten to where you are now. Had you drug that out over 3 years, it would have taken longer and it would have been less interruption time. And that's a very valid strategy as well. But the intense focused effort, there's so much momentum you can get from that of like, I'm going to go in, go serious, go deep, go hard. And it doesn't take 7 months. I would
Right.
guess, you haven't told me this part of your story yet, but I would
Yep.
guess within 30 to 60 days, you kind of knew you were onto something.
Oh yeah. I
It's
mean,
hard to burn that
in the
hard for
first
7
2
months.
weeks. First 2 weeks, I knew that I was on to something, and I decided, that I literally, I wrote my goals down for those 7 months on a board, and a vision board, and then, and I didn't know what I was shooting for. I just put numbers on there that I could try to shoot for. I needed a goal. I'm a
Sure.
goal guy, so
Okay.
had that. And then at the very bottom, I wrote, "When it gets hard, keep fighting." And I wrote that in big bold letters, and then I cut out a little picture of my family and stuck it on the side of there. And so like I literally had it in the room that I worked from every morning, and I just sat in there. I had to see it every day. And so I had been waking up probably about, I don't know, 6:30 probably most, while I was working. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to wake up at 5, I'm just going to suck it up, wake up at 5. And so I did. I woke up at 5. I worked for an hour and a half, 2 hours before I went to work. I listened to podcasts to work. That's all I did for 5-7 months was literally podcast to work. Probably halfway through that, I realized you could actually double time it.
You could speed it up. That's right.
Speed it up. You can speed it up. So
There's a little, most podcast listening apps now have that, and even YouTube viewing, you can speed it up, and it makes. I try to laugh a little deeper, knowing that some people are doing that, so I don't sound like a little squirrel when I laugh. But
yeah,
it's a neat feature. You can get through a lot of content that way because our ability to hear is far better than the human voice's ability to speak.
You can download content. Yeah, you can download content so much faster.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would literally sit in my car if I got to work, and I would finish out the podcast, my AirPods in, like walking into work, and so then on the way home I'd listen to them because we live in north of Atlanta, so there's obviously lots of traffic here, so it's like 35-minute commute one way.
Right. 8 lanes both ways going through Atlanta, man. You got to. That's Indiana boys. When we want to go to Florida, you always pay attention to what time are you going to hit Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and then basically 5:30 to 7:30 was like a no zone. That was family time, dinner time, kid time, get them down, and then sometimes I would work from 8 to 10, and then on Saturdays I'd usually work, maybe half the day, just depending on what was going on that weekend. So we had to do a lot of touch and goes. My wife kind of held the extra ball, for that season, and we just communicated a lot, and so I was about 2 weeks in, and I was like, man, I really feel like I could go faster. And what I started with, I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I remember seeing the pyramid of like, do I want to do like garage sales? Do I want to do books? Do I want to do retail arbitrage? Online arbitrage, wholesale, private label, and so.
Dude, you just nailed it.
Did I? I think I looked at that chart so much. I haven't looked at it in time, but like I remember looking at it and going, okay, well, I know I'm not wired to do this. I don't think I would enjoy that, and so I just decided, hey, I'm going to start with. I got a ton of books. I was in seminary years ago. We still have books laying around. I'm just going to figure out what it's like to send books into Amazon with FBA versus doing merchant fulfilled.
Sure.
So that way I just kind of understood the system, the process. So I started with that. At the same time, I just start like doing some test products and stuff like that. And so kind of realized that I wanted to go the possibly wholesale, but probably private label way, just because I know that's at the top. But for me, I'm very creative, have a lot of graphic design background. So like, for me, I just, marketing was my undergrad. So like, I really kind of latched onto that.
You felt comfortable very quickly in that arena.
I did. And I know that's not ideal for most people. Yeah, I know that's not ideal for most people.
Sure.
But for me, it was just the right fit. And actually I ended up talking to, is it Jim Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up talking to him about coaching pretty early on, like the first like month. And got paired up with the coaching program, my first test products, they didn't work. They just didn't work. And I gave myself permission in the beginning to fail. I was okay with that. I knew that was part of the process. And I knew it was a mindset that I just had to be okay with that. That I just had to learn. And I learned from every single one of those failures. I learned something new to apply to, the next thing I was going to try. And so I just hit the ground running, started finally getting some traction on some products.
Let me ask you a question before we move forward. What were the costs of those early failures?
Oh, they were like $100 here, $100 there. Like, man, if I can say anything to anybody who's even, maybe they're a seasoned seller or they're new and they think they want to do private label, it literally, I still test things very small.
Yes.
Before I spend any money. I don't want to say you're a fool, but I think you're a fool if you don't do it that way.
Yeah. Because you're ignoring the obvious opportunity.
That's right. Right. Like why risk, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars if you don't have to, when it doesn't take much to test it,
Mm-hmm. You just gave me a book title idea, and someone might steal this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Someone needs to write this book. It's two words that we have the unique pleasure and opportunity of being able to enjoy that no other time in human history would those with an economic been able to explore. Up until all of human history, up until about 15 years ago, if you wanted to launch a business, it meant extreme risk, a lot of money, blood, sweat, and tears, probably going to fail. If you even make it to the launch point, your competitors are going to devour you very quickly after that. It was just a brutal thing to try to survive as a business. And even you read the statistics about businesses, the odds of making it long term are just abysmal. What changed? About 15 years ago, two words changed the whole outlook. And if the person you're listening to doesn't embrace these two words, and I've never put it this strongly before, but it just came to me super clear as we were talking, Ben. It's test small. Test small was never possible before. Right. Now, you could be small out of necessity, and you could grow slowly out of necessity. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about testing potentially multi-million-dollar concepts that could take off a few days from now and be huge. But you only got to test small. Test small is the title of the book. It's the concept. If the person you're listening to isn't talking about testing small, you're listening to the wrong business advice. And I would challenge even the, Harvard School of Business, put me in a debate with the head of the department, and I will bury him. If he's not teaching test small concepts, I'll bury him with example after example after example of people who tested a few $10, $20, $50 ideas and built a massive household brand versus the traditional route of blood, sweat, tears, years, money, risk of failure right out of the gate. It's just not necessary anymore. So that may be the most important thing you've said so far. It really struck a chord with me, especially. Test small. And that even goes with how you're educating yourself. Don't go rolling $30,000 and don't write big checks. Don't spend big amounts of money on anything, anywhere, ever. It's just not necessary anymore. Doesn't slow you down at all to test small.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox moment.
No, that's awesome. You're 100% right. And I think that part of that process too is sometimes people have a hard time, even with $50 or $100, like they have trouble like letting that go. And I think you have to be okay with that. You have to let yourself be okay with failure, because it's not really failure. You're actually learning something in the process. It's just like the old story of, Thomas Edison, took him 999 tries, that he failed 999 times to make the light bulb. But someone asked him, how did it feel to fail?
That's such a great example. Yeah, he persisted in failing. But you know what the difference between an inventor who's failing, and it's a small difference, but I think it's significant and worth mentioning, and a business builder or an investor who's failing, an inventor versus an investor, if you will. Just from a purely biblical vantage point, let's say, or just from those of us who embrace the relational side of business, an inventor can be in his basement by himself, failing over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, if all he has is failures, he hasn't accomplished anything. really, possibly, if he walks away and he's just had a series of failures. As a business builder, however, a series of failures, you actually do have something because you're establishing relationships as you go. You're on the phone with people. You're partnering together. It's the difference between gambling and investing. Investing is a biblically endorsed activity.
Yeah.
But even though it's risky, some people might say, well, what's the difference between going to Vegas, putting $1,000 on the roulette wheel versus starting a business that has a 50% odds of failing? Aren't they both the same? No, they're not. Because in gambling, one party wins, one party loses. The relationship is destroyed eventually over time. In business, the relationship is enhanced. So these little failures, these micro failures, if you're involving other people, you're doing it even like with your wife, with the coaching partner that you're working with the supplier that you're considering using, the relationships are growing over time. You're in it together. You're trying to win. You win together, you lose together. So even those little micro failures are building a trail of relationships that you can lean on. I'm kind of hoping you have an example for me to use because I don't know your full story, but did any of those early failures lead to a relationship that led to a later success by any chance?
Um,
Putting you on the spot. It's okay if you did, if they didn't.
Yeah.
But the people you met along the way, even your coaches.
I'm sure it's totally happened for sure. You know, one of my early ones was I found a product that I was trying to do a PPP, which is proven product partnering, and no one had reached out to them, and so I got a little test of it. They said, hey, we'll give you exclusive to try it on Amazon. They weren't having success. I tried it. It didn't work. But that opened the door later. I do a proven product partnering now with a guy who I'm doing very well with, in addition to my main business. So
what is proven product partnering on that pyramid we drew earlier? Like, what does it have to do with what we're talking about for the people who don't know what we're talking about when we say PPP?
Yeah. So it's basically, that what's great about it is you don't assume the risk of owning the product, all that. You're basically getting paid to help them market their product on Amazon. And then you get paid, you work out a deal where you get paid on the sales of that product. So when they win, you win. And you don't win until they win.
Right.
And so it's really a beautiful thing because, there's no risk except for you, talk about investment. Your investment is not, financially, it's just time, like the worst thing you could do if it didn't work is that you gave up some time, but you didn't necessarily give up, money. So,
right. And neither did they.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we'll charge an upfront fee.
Right.
The other beautiful thing is it allows you to be diverse in your Amazon accounts, because some people are nervous, like, oh, what if Amazon shuts down my account? My Amazon business is over. Well, no, that's not true. But setting that aside, if you are suspended 95% of the time, you get reinstated and you still know how to find great inventory. You can partner with others creatively. There's all kinds of great solutions to go forward. But you can have multiple Amazon accounts that are thriving with the PPP model because you help these other folks set up. Did you help them set up their own Amazon account?
I did.
Yeah. That's the best way to do it.
They knew nothing about Amazon.
Right.
Zero. But they had a great product.
So you're a commission-only sales rep now selling on the Amazon platform. That's the basic model, right?
That's right. And, he had a great product. You talk about relationships. We literally met on a carpet circle teaching fourth graders at church. And, I just left my job and we were having a conversation, and come to find out he was a manufacturer for a product for a very large company. I won't name it, but he was a manufacturer for it. And I just said, and he knew a lot about dealing with China and all that. And so I was like, hey, can I just take you to lunch? Which is another thing I would tell people. The best way to get advice, take people to lunch, pay for their lunch, pay for their coffee. Like
never eat alone, right?
Yeah, man, it's so good. And so met this guy for lunch. I thought I was just going to, ask him questions. You never know where things will lead. It wasn't even, a partnering deal wasn't even on the table. It wasn't even in my brain. And as we're talking, he's the one that brought it up. He's like, hey, could you take this and do this? And so we kind of, started forming this deal. So, so basically I've actually helped him create his own side brand, his own company, his own brand, did all his graphic design for him. So that was a whole nother thing. I was able to create another source of income in addition to doing all the Amazon stuff. And we finally got the products, launching at the end of this past year, and we're going to do very, very well in that.
How's it going so far? Like, share some numbers with us.
Yeah, so we really only had, unfortunately, we didn't have the products hit until middle of December. I'm trying to remember how much we sold in December, but we just finished January, which is probably going to be our lowest month. I think we did $6,000 in sales, which is not astronomical, but
your first full month, right?
First full month, and it's probably going to be the lowest month, especially for that category.
Sure.
It's going to be the lowest month of the year. So, I mean, I think probably, for me, I don't know, I guess I could share this, I'll probably make $30,000 to $40,000 in commission from that per year. And that's just I almost consider that my side hustle.
Yeah. Right. It's just a matter of replenishing the inventory when it's low.
Yep.
Maybe creating a few new SKUs, a few new ASINs over time.
Yeah. And we have some ideas of taking the same, technology that he has and making new products. So
right.
There's a lot of like room to grow there, and
spin off. Sure. Maybe get his own Shopify site at some point.
Yeah. And he does the manufacturing really well, and he doesn't know anything about what I do, and it works perfectly. So we're wired differently. We love working together. He's older than me, so he's got some experience in business I can learn from as well. So it's been a good thing for sure.
Yeah, that has so much potential behind it. That story you just shared, and this is a relationship business. You may think you're selling random widgets to random strangers. That's not how this works. It's a relationship business at every stage. Well,
yeah.
So fill me in on the other side of your business. You kind of couched that as a side hustle.
Yeah. We got rabbit trail like we thought we would. Yeah. So, let me kind of back up. So, started doing coaching, with Melissa, and my first 5 months, with coaching, I ended up doing $50,000 in sales. And this is just on the side, I'm working full time. And so that by far exceeded my expectations.
Wow.
It really was at that point that I realized that I needed to start thinking about at what point down the road, could I get to that I could step out of, vocational ministry, what I was doing, and then do that full time. And it just happened to that we were doing a lot of reorg in our organization and on our team. I love the team I work for. I love my old boss. We actually had coffee this week. I mean, we have a great relationship. If I was going to step out of ministry, I didn't want to be burned out. I didn't want to be frustrated. I didn't want to be angry. I wanted to be healthy. And it was just a really healthy time, but I just knew I was getting a new role that was going to be double what I was doing, plus a new boss. And so it was just, I hadn't built up the income fully yet, but we had some savings that we felt comfortable with taking a year to really focus and jump hard. And I had been successful with the season we were in. So again, don't recommend that for everybody, but I definitely knew it was the right season for me. And so took a step out, so at this point, I had from nothing to, knowing nothing to this point, it was 7 months. And so did $50,000 in sales that part of that year. And then, went into 2020, had no idea, obviously, like everyone else, that COVID was going to happen. And so, I hit the ground running, in January of 2020. And then, but middle of March 14th, man, it was it went from X to zero in my account, just because we weren't in grocery or household, and so it was all right, God, what are you doing here? And, so for about 3 days, I was kind of paralyzed a little bit. I was kind of all right, how do we need to think about this? And, I finally got to the point where I was all right, I can either sit here and dwell about this, or I can try to figure out, how do I take this what's going on and use it to my benefit. And
Yeah.
so, I just kind of
Focus on I think it's a Jim Rohn thing. You can focus on the loss,
yeah,
or you can focus on the lesson.
yeah,
Dan Miller is the one who I heard say very early on, when challenge hits, what does this make possible? Versus, oh no, I'm in a terrible situation. What does this make possible? That's where that warrior spirit's got to kind of well up inside of you. And that's where I don't know how people do it without God. That's where I turn. I love that you said, like, okay, God, I'm a steward, right? This is all your stuff. You put me in charge. What's the plan?
yep,
You didn't tell me this was coming. What's the plan? Right.
yep,
And then there's let those ideas flow in, and that's when your relationships kick in, and the people you can call and, hey, I need some creative ideas here. Let's kick it around. You don't want to wait till you're desperate to build relationships. You lean on those relationships you've been building during the good times, and those people kind of pull you through. But
yeah,
so what'd you do, man? You hit zero.
yeah.
After riding high.
Yeah, so we were basically kind of around zero for about 45 days. As Amazon was, battling like everybody else was trying to figure out the pandemic. And, I think, they were doing everything that they could. And, I also love hearing stories about people who were doing, replans and stuff like that. Like I have a good friend, Jessica, who's part of this group, and she did really well during that season, which is awesome, But yeah, so we kept going forward with just keeping our minds active and just thinking about, I was just thinking about ideas and just continue to do research versus let my mind kind of travel. And little did I know, I had done a test product that ended up before COVID hit, that ended up doing very, very well coming right out of those 45 days. Actually, June was my second biggest month of the year. And so, once that hit, we knew we were just kind of off to the races. And so, to kind of talk about numbers. So, my projection was to try to do for 2020 was to try to do $208,000 in sales. Like that was my goal. And even with that 45 days down, we were right at 300,000 for the year.
That's awesome. So
yeah,
2020, and as we're recording this, we're just into February 2021. So the most recent full year for you was $300,000, even with a 45-day hit.
Yeah.
Now, is that including working with your buddy? No, because you weren't making money from that yet, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. So yeah.
Amazon account.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was just my Amazon account. So that was separate. I also, like I really took to heart what you've said so many times on podcasts is, multiple streams of income. And so I actually started doing health coaching on the side. My wife and I went on a health journey last year, and I lost 54 pounds last year during all this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. So you look like a guy who's been fit for a long time, man. You lost 54 pounds last year.
Yeah. Actually today that we're recording this is 1 year since we took a step for our health, my wife and I. So
wow.
Yeah.
So if you had to elevator pitch me on what you did, what changes you made, I'm guessing diet and exercise, right? So, but fill me in, like what'd you guys do?
Yeah, we did a program through some friends of ours, and it's really around nutrition, and learning healthy habits, long-term healthy habits. So yeah, that was, really that was the focus. And now we're into the gym and, all that stuff. I tell everybody, hey, it's 90% nutrition, 10% movement. I don't even call it exercise, but I like to say you can't outrun the fork. So,
that's good. Not to step any toes out there. I'm big into health and fitness, and
yeah.
I'm cautious about
runner,
what I eat, but because I feel like I got to stay sharp. I got too much to do. I got to stay sharp. So, but I eat things I definitely shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
Sure. I think all of us are, and, it's, so anyways, we ended up doing, I ended up doing health coaching on the side just to bring in. So I've always been wired like that. I love spinning multiple plates. Like if I just did just Amazon only and I didn't do the PPP or I didn't do the health coaching, that's how I'm wired. I like spinning these plates. It keeps me active. It keeps my brain thinking in multiple places. So, Could I grow my Amazon business a lot faster if I just focus on that one thing? Absolutely. I think I absolutely could. I just prefer to kind of live in this world of multiple streams and spinning plates. And, you know, I feel really good about where we're at. If my account were to get shut down for whatever reason, I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows, you know?
Yeah.
But
The odds are pretty slim, but who knows?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But you hit on
yeah,
the reason that I make such a big deal about multiple streams. It comes from our eBay days. It was pounded into those of us who've been doing this for, let's say, more than 15 years on the e-commerce. It doesn't get our heart rate up anymore to see stories where platforms just wipe a bunch of people out for some random reason. Who knows why? It
yeah,
happens. These are privately owned companies, privately owned websites, and they can wake up one day and decide they don't like you, and whatever reason, they can take that away. So we leverage those platforms during the time that we're able to. Now, I'm very bullish on the future of the Amazon platform. I've talked with senior vice presidents at Amazon, guys that work directly under Bezos, and heard from their heart their sentiment towards third-party sellers. They need us.
yeah,
They really like what we bring to the table, which is a whole bunch of money that they wouldn't have otherwise. They don't know how we do what we do, but they sure like when we do it. And the future is us. That's the only part of their operation that they can't fully control. So there's a little resistance, a little tug of war there. But we put a lot of money in the bank for those guys, and we fuel that engine in a way that no other, they couldn't hire the hundreds of thousands of people needed and pay them well to do what we do, because we take on risks that they're not willing to take on. And
yeah,
there's the opportunity. So the future is very bright, but at the same time, yeah, multiple streams of income. And I love the ones that you've identified. And I think the important thing, though, to keep when we talk about multiple streams is one thing I like to keep in mind. I got this advice from Daniel Lappin. I was running the whole concept of multiple streams, which is a biblically sound concept, by the way, but I won't launch into that right now. But he said it's important that all of your tributaries are flowing into the same stream, and all your streams are flowing into the same river, and your rivers flowing into the same ocean. And what he meant by that was they're complementing each other, even in some small, slight way. They're not completely different universes, because you want to kind of be known as the guy who's good at X, ultimately, at the end of the day. So you're kind of known as and it's okay to have a few blanks there, but someone who's good at a bunch of things is good at nothing, is the point. So if you're thinking, I'm going to be good at 18 different things, that's what it means to have multiple streams. That's not what it means. You're good at a couple things. In fact, you're one of the best ever at one specific thing, and you tack other little things onto that. That's vital, because you want to be known. You want your name to mean something to people, like, oh, that's the healthy guy that knows how to sell things online, right? Like, you want that thought, that little micro thought people have, like, he's really good at, and that's his arena, right? And you let your streams flow out of that. You don't want to go start a dog groomer in the daycare and,
yeah,
kind of bounce all over the place. That's not multiple streams, because you can't really pin an expertise label to that, is the visual I use.
yeah,
Hopefully
yeah,
that helps you.
yeah,
For the
yeah.
listeners.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with me with the multiple streams, like there are things that don't take up my entire time. Like there's small pockets of time that hopefully are generating a good amount of income for my quote unquote hourly rate. If
Right.
you have one, I kind of put that through the filter now. Because my time is worth the value of a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Uh, from what I can do with my Amazon business, for instance.
Yeah. Well, that's how you decide when it's time to automate too. The value, understanding the value of your time. And,
Yep.
if I can have someone step in and do those jobs for $10 an hour when I'm worth 60 an hour, it starts to make sense, right?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. Which
Well,
is, I was
share
going
some
to say,
numbers. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, that's a great segue because around the time I got to with coming out of COVID, like I was, I was counting widgets, putting them in things and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm going to do this as long as I can do it until it's like, I can't do it anymore. Like it's my time value is not in the right spot, And so that's when I actually hired a high school student who lives in our neighborhood. He's at home because he can't go to school, that kind of thing. And so he works for me 8 hours a week, and he does all my inventory, all my shipping, everything. It's been awesome. It's
That's a
funny, like
great
around.
education.
Oh yeah, and it was funny because around Christmas time, it probably been several months since I actually put tape on a box, and I was like, oh, I got to remind myself how to do this. Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah,
I would say it's a great education for him too. That's a great opportunity for him to see the entrepreneurial vantage point. You don't get that in the public school system. You just
right.
don't. You've got to get out there and get into a business and kind
Yeah.
of get a feel for what it means to make stuff happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's good. He's gonna benefit greatly from that.
Yep. Yep. So that's been good, and then, being home, we finally were able for my wife to leave her part-time job and come home, and she's doing a business of her own on the side. And then, we do a homeschool hybrid. Our kids go to school 2 days a week and then homeschool 3 days a week, which we were already doing before COVID, but, we're doing that now. And so, I see my kids all the time. I love it. I have 3 girls, 4, 6, and 9, and we're very family oriented. And so, this business has given me truly amazing flexibility. I mean, more flexibility than we've ever had as a family. If we want to go to the lake, we can go to the lake,
That's right.
We want to go visit grandparents, we can go visit them. And, that's been probably the biggest thing that has been so amazing about the seat that we're getting to sit in right now.
I called it there for a while. I called it weather-based parenting, weather-based family strategy. Meaning, if it was supposed to be sunny today and it's raining, we're not going to the zoo today. Daddy's going to work hard in his office. You wake up the next day, it's supposed to be raining, but it's sunny. Hey, look at this beautiful day. Let's go to the zoo, guys. So you're like, what's the weather doing today? That kind of dictates your family's schedule and calendar. As long as I get the hours that I need in the office, it doesn't matter what time it is on the clock. You can run your business very flexibly, and it never gets old, man. I've had this for 18 years, but saying, here's my business right here in my pocket. Put me anywhere on the planet. It goes with me. If I've got an internet connection, you can even smash this phone and smash my laptop if you want. If I've got a connection to the internet, and if I can remember my ID and password to get into all the stuff I got to get into, might have to reset a few passwords. That's the worst case scenario. You could take it all. And I have evidence of that. I mean, we had a total loss house fire in the summer of 2017. Everything I have, equipment-wise, records, everything was gone, and my business grew in the coming months. Now, it was highly stressful for many other reasons, and that's a story for another day. It was really brutally difficult. But for the business, I was blown away. It just because I leaned on my team. I had to lean on them and trust them a whole lot more than I would have otherwise. But once I did that, I kind of realized, wow, I've got some people around me that really did a lot of competence and a lot of confidence and a lot of abilities, and I really wasn't needed. It was kind of freeing, actually, to experience. But yeah, it's a great feeling. It never gets old, man. That flexibility of schedule, that freedom, that liberty. I mean, that's what people are ultimately wanting when they say, I want to have a home-based business. They want to have the freedom to do what they want, to support the causes they want to support, to go where they want to go, when they want to go there, be able to take their kid to the appointments they need to go to, not have to, drop their kids off here and there and everywhere else, relying on other people to help and watch and babysit, like have them all under the same roof. That's a blessing, man. Your girls are going to benefit a huge way from that. So congratulations on that achievement, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I can go pick them up from school. We kind of trade off, and usually Mondays when it's nice out, like I pick them up, I take them to the park. Sometimes when they're playing with their friends, I might have my iPad looking at stuff, but I don't have to. And like you said, if the weather's nice or whatever, like even my wife was like, hey, we're going to be going to the Georgia Aquarium on Friday. I'm like, well, I'll just clear my schedule and I'll be there,
like a couple things around. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And it was
I'm hoping if I keep you long enough on this podcast episode that the girls might come flying in, because they're due home from school here not too long ago, if I remember right.
I think they're at Target. I'm hoping,
oh no, I'm sorry.
I'm hoping they're learning how to replan.
Oh, well, is your wife trained on replans?
No, she's not, but she totally could.
Losing money, man. You're just burning cash. Target's a great place without a replan.
Well, they say every hour that somebody's in Target, they spend $100.
Really? I've never heard that. I saw what was that sign? There's actually a Facebook group that got started up. It was Husbands of Target Wives or something like that. It was like a support group for guys whose wives spend so much time at Target. It's hilarious. It's all done in jest, of course, but great pictures. One of the guys standing in the parking lot with a cardboard sign. It's like, please help me. My wife's been in there 3 hours. It's great.
That's awesome.
But we're diverting off. You never shared with us the numbers of your the FBA business. I know you did 300 in 2020, and we're just 30 days into 2021. But what are your numbers looking like for this upcoming year? What do you got in store? And what business model are you using? Is this all still primarily private label?
Yeah. So it's all private label. I kind of like to live there. It's just I enjoy it. I guess I seem to just kind of understand it. So I think, I feel pretty confident we're probably going to be in the $450,000 to $500,000 range this year. We had a really strong January. Already blew past our projection for January, and January is usually our lowest month. And I'm also working on trying to get my margins higher. We had good margins. I would say we had okay margins. Well, I would say they're good, but I definitely think we can do better this year. So, I learned a lot last year. I was still learning some things about ads and that kind of thing for my private label products, but we finished the year with a 36% margin. But I think we can do closer to 40 this year. So, I'm kind of chasing after that as well. And so we had a really strong margin, for January compared to last year. So I'm excited about that. And we're continuing to do a lot of product development right now. That's kind of the season right now where we're kind of really focusing on that a lot. So I feel really good. I feel like, if I could, my dream is if we could grow $150,000 to $200,000 in sales a year, year over year, that would be awesome. So,
I think you'll more than do that. That's a very reasonable goal, but with the skill set that you have now, and what you bring to the table, I mean, you're easily sitting on that plus a whole lot more. So I think you've got some conservative estimates of what you're capable of in this next upcoming year for sure. And I'm very bullish on the whole replan opportunity simply because the world, when the history books are written 20 years from now about the 5-year period we're living through, just beginning right now, the economic shift from traditional shopping, going to the store, to online shopping and e-commerce, which still only represents 10% of all economic activity in the United States. Retail opportunity, so 10%. It jumped up to about 14 or 15, like that. We took a 5-year leap forward in the past 6 months. But there's just so much opportunity there. The stuff that's just sitting on the shelves, those $5 bills, you can bring them home and send them to Amazon, and they become, $40 suddenly. It's just like, wow, they're everywhere. So that's a huge opportunity that you or anyone else can tack on to your business very easily. It's low-hanging fruit. And then there's continuing your private label momentum, your PPP model. I think your challenge is going to be building a team, because I know you like to wear a lot of hats, but you want to be decreasing the number of hats you're wearing over time, not increasing, right? As you add streams.
And I love building teams, and I do it until I'm like, all right, now I really got to hire somebody. I got to hand it off. And so
let me ask you about that for a second, because I'm curious. I have an observation that I typically make when as entrepreneurs, we do tend to delay bringing on help as long as possible. We claw and then we bring someone in. What's been your experience when you do finally cross that? Do you find yourself thinking, I probably could have waited longer? Or do you find yourself thinking, why didn't I do this a year ago, or something else, something in between?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, like, when I hired, the high schooler that comes and works for me, like, we were in a unique season because COVID was going on. So like, we really didn't know how sales were going to be. They weren't,
Right.
It was hard to project. Right. So we didn't really know. I think if we were in a normal year, I probably would have done it sooner. But because there was so much unknown, I kind of waited a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, it has drastically freed up my time to do that. And the more I can continue to do that, even with bringing on more, I mean, eventually I'm going to have to, and but right now it's definitely manageable. For me, it's I'm not spending full time on my Amazon business, And so yeah, it's, I think it was just unique for us because of the COVID situation. Um, but, I'm a numbers guy. I like to really break it down. Like what is it costing me like per hour, versus
Sure.
this versus that. And that's just how my brain kind of works. So when I knew that my time in could be making a lot more per hour if I was spending it over here, and hiring somebody, it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
I see a lot of times, even in the Facebook group, people will post in there like, "Hey, I'm at this point, like, how do I keep making it grow bigger?" And I mean, the answer is always the more you can multiply your team, the faster you can grow. My friend Jessica, she's kind of at that stage right now. She finally pulled the trigger on hiring some people. She does OA and RA and replens. Actually, it's kind of crazy. I called her up like maybe a month into coaching, and I said, "Hey, I know you're looking for something. I know how you're wired. I think you need to go check out this guy's podcast." And so I did. And so I said, "Hey, if you go listen to 3 podcasts, come back and you're still interested, I'll kind of give you next steps." So kind of did that. And she's a coaching student. I think she was with Larry and Sue.
Wow. That's so
And,
cool.
and,
So you turned her on to our podcast. I appreciate it,
oh
man.
yeah. Yeah. And then she's done, her and her husband did PAC, and they have done exceptionally well. We talk about 4 times a year and kind of catch each other up because she doesn't really know fully my side of the business. I don't really know her full side of the business. So we love sharing that stuff.
That's fantastic. Wow. I
But yeah,
love it.
but we can share strategies on, how do we train people and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. There's some overlap there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. This whole community basically is, you've just described, a little micro bit of how this community has just exploded out to where there's people meeting people and doing deals and partnerships. And I think it all kind of comes back to, for me, this is another Daniel App, and I share wisdom from him all the time because he's dove into the Bible and pulled some things out that I didn't know was there. But one of the things that he pulled out early on that really had a great deal of influence on my entire business strategy was, if all I know about somebody, I've never met them, never seen them, skin color irrelevant, age irrelevant, male, female, who cares, where they live in the world, no one cares. If all I know about them is they started a company and they kept it running successfully over a long period of time, profitable, right? The customers like their product, basically, and they've been able to sell it at a profit. That's the only thing I know about that person. It's a very safe bet that you're dealing with a very high quality individual who's running that operation. Not 100% true, but like 99.9% true. That if that's all I know about you is you've run a profitable business for an extended period of time. I don't even know that was wildly profitable. I'm just saying you're able to turn dollar bills into $5 bills over an extended period of time, serving happy customers. That's all I know about you. Sign me up. So we built our whole team that way. Our coaches, for example, in some cases are people I've never met. Well, Jim, what's your hiring process for coaches? Are you succeeding? Do you have a business that's succeeding over a sustained period of time? Check that box. Well, I know about 95% of what I need to know. Now I just need to know, do you have a teacher's heart? And that's pretty easy to identify too through a few, maybe there's some secret sauce in that. I won't dive into it. If you got a teacher's heart and you're succeeding in business, you will be a phenomenal coach. So we don't need a lengthy interview process at that point. That is a big advantage for us because we bring on these amazing high quality individuals with no interview process whatsoever, except they're succeeding wildly themselves and they have a teacher's heart. That's it. So I look at a guy like you, and even before this podcast, if you ever wanted to get into coaching, there's opportunity there because you've succeeded. Obviously, you've got a teacher, educator's heart because you've done that. You've done ministry, you've built teams. If it's something you want to do, it's sitting there, low hanging fruit. Another one of these little tributaries or streams that feeds into this guy, Ben, who is the health guy who understands e-commerce, right? That's Ben. It feeds right into it. So just throwing that out there, but that's how we operate around here. And that's a big, big advantage to understand that dynamic. And with your relationship with, you said, Jessica, that's what you guys have in common now, that business connection. That's a powerful connection. Right?
Yeah.
It's one of the strongest friendships you can have in the world are people you build things with.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that play out. So I think you guys should connect more often. That's my instinct. 4 times a year is not enough. Once a month, get a team. 2 of you, a couple other people, brainstorm, shape each other's businesses, ask each other hard questions. That would be time well spent. Call it a mastermind, right? Just blow it up.
That's good. That's good.
Well, what else you got to share with us, Ben? Any other lessons or tips from your story? Anything else that you want to drop on the listeners before we start to land this one?
Yeah, it's funny because I would listen to the podcast early on, and I would, hear people say, they'd be kind of where I'm at today, like a year and a half in, and they're like, "Man, it's hard for me to think about my early days." It was like, "Oh, it was just a year and a half ago,"
Right.
And so I really did have to think about my early days, and I was like, "Hey, if somebody's listening to this, and they're just starting out and they're trying to figure out like how to get going, or how to, you know, am I doing the right direction, or what steps do I need to take?" I think for me the biggest thing is, and I talk about this with any kind of goals, whether it's business goals, health goals, doesn't matter, any kind of goals, family goals, marriage goals. You got to have a why, and you got to have a strong why, and you got to write it down. I think when we see it in front of us, write it on a sticky note, put it on your dashboard when you're driving to work every day, preferably not over your speedometer, but put it on there. Write it on your mirror with a dry erase marker in your bathroom. Like I've done that before. Like just keeping it in front of you. I think writing it down. So I think having a strong why is really important. Fight when it's hard. I think anytime you start something new, it's gonna be hard. I saw a funny. It's funny, but it's true. Is so many people. How often did you start a Netflix series that they said, "Hey, listen, you just got to push through the beginning because it gets better."
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you start doing that, but that's the same thing with starting a business. It's so hard, but it gets better, but you have to push through the beginning.
Yeah.
And I kind of call it the desert, and other people have gone through the desert before you, and so you're not doing anything no one else has done. And
right.
you got to learn from those people, like ask people, be humble, be teachable, try to just learn from as many people as you can, but be consistent. And I think this is actually, Jim and you and I connected on Facebook through this. I had posted this on somebody's thing, but I literally put this quote on a board when I was journeying in the beginning. It was in our kitchen. It was one of those little letter boards, and it was literally, it's not what you do occasionally, but what you do consistently that brings success.
Oh, that's good.
And so like, I just knew I had to put in my schedule consistently. I'm going to wake up at 5. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to work after the kids go to bed. I'm going to actually do it even when I'm tired, and I've heard you talk about this. I didn't watch Netflix or TV for 7 months. Like, I just went and I just worked on this business, and it was tiring. I was tired, but I knew if I just fought in the beginning, that it would get easier, or I was hoping it would. I was buying into all the successful people, listening to them. Everybody in the podcast had just had the same generic story. It was different, but it was the same constant thing. And so that's what kept me going, listening to those podcasts, hearing those stories over and over, but that kept me fighting. So I would just say, hey, be consistent, put in the work. This isn't a get rich quick business. There's no get rich quick businesses, but if you put in the work, it gets much easier on the other side. It's much easier when it gets going because it just clicks,
Yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking of, who Roger Bannister is by any chance? He was the first guy to do a 4-minute mile, and which was thought at the time it couldn't be done. Right. It was basically.
Oh, I know you're
we were told it would kill a man to even attempt. And after he finished the 4-minute mile, he actually fell out of exhaustion and jubilation. And the reporters on the scene were already starting to write the head like he died, just like the doctor said he would. He died. He did it, but he died. No, he was just laying there exhausted and exhilarated. He got up and ran a victory lap after that. But the number of people now, I mean, there's probably a high school within 5 miles of you where there's a kid or two that's run a 4-minute mile since then. Up until that point in human history, no one had. And it's not that we're more genetically advanced now. That's actually been proven. I watched a great video on, we're not genetically more advanced now. It's not like our athletes are any stronger. We've got better equipment, better training, better surfaces on our track. The Olympics were ran on sand, up until 50 years ago. So, they were running on sand. Of course, you're going to be a little slower on these gritty surfaces. Mm-hmm. But the point was, once someone did it, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy for you to do it. But you have this thought in your head now, like, it's doable. It's doable. And that's why I love bringing on people like, I call them excuse killers. And like, part of your story today killed a few excuses that someone might have out there. That person that says, well, I got 3 young kids at home. I can't do it. I can't possibly do this. You've got 3 young kids at home, right? Or I've got a full-time gig going on, and I need my entertainment at night. No, you don't. You can find some time. You can carve that time out. So you've killed some excuses, intentionally or not. And that's what I think is the power of this. And that's why this podcast is kind of taken on most of our episodes have this common theme, because you can listen to me over and over and over and over again. And you may not go anywhere because it's Jim again, but you get these different people with different perspectives, and they start killing off your excuses. And all you're left with is the person in the mirror saying, where's your excuses, man? Let's do this. There's no more excuses. I've met 10 people now who have less advantages than you do, less education, less time, less budget, less ability, less education, more kids, less time on their hands to tackle this, less ambition maybe even than I have, and they're doing it. So I can do it. So that's why I love these podcast episodes with different guests and their stories. And you shared some brilliant stuff. But yeah, that Roger Bannister example popped in my head, because we're not saying, I love the desert analogy. You're going to have to go through a period of intense focused effort. You could do it in a week. Those people blow my mind. They buy the Proven Amazon course. We call it the Pack, Proven Amazon. And 2 weeks later, they're posting sales. Like, I wasn't that ambitious about this thing when I started. You can cram it into 2 weeks if you want. You can stretch it out over 3 to 4 months, 6 months if you want. But it's going to be some intense focused effort in there. Some doing what needs to be done because it needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, which is a great skill to pound into your kids while they're young. I don't feel like it. That doesn't matter. Nobody cares how you feel right now. This is what has to happen. It's a great skill for life.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it really is. And when it comes to this business, like with Amazon, like because of this group, it's 80% mindset, 20% doing. Like you just have to have the mindset. And if you have the mindset, this group can teach you how to do this business. Hands down. I mean, 100% you will succeed. I believe that. Like if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to have the 80% mindset and you're willing to do the work, like you can get there. I have heard so many stories on this podcast, from people. I can't remember the gentleman's name. You probably could say it off the top of your head. The one who he didn't have any money to start, so he went and Ubered to start getting Uber money. And then,
right.
And he had a 2-hour commute to work every day. Like, I mean, talk about excuses. Like he eliminated just about every excuse in the book.
Or you get Carolyn from Homeless to Homeowners, who titled her book, Carolyn McFall from Homeless to Homeowners. She was in a women's shelter running from an abusive spouse with her kids in tow with no income. That's the start of her story. Who here has more disadvantages than that right now? Not very many of us listening. But if you do, hey, be that great example. You've got a long way to rise. I love my third reference to Daniel Lapin, but I love he makes the observation that we're the only part of God's creation that can wake up one day and say, I don't like where I'm at. I'm going to do something different and take myself somewhere better. Your dog can't do that. The dog can't go on a self-improvement journey, but we can as people. We can decide I'm going to eliminate these parts of what I do in my routine that I don't like. I'm going to add these new things in that enhance my relationships and take me to a better place. You've got the decision-making power to do that. Take advantage of it.
That's right.
Love it. Good episode today, man. Good episode. I think you've got a leadership future in you. I say that often. Business success is a leadership journey. You can't escape it. You're going to be an example for people who are out there frustrated and flustered and haven't figured it out and haven't succeeded in business. And just hearing that you have makes you instantly a leader in their mind. So you've got that platform, you've got that leadership, but you've got that teacher's heart as well. And I can't wait to see where you're going, man. I'd love to see your beautiful family just suddenly burst into the room too.
They're not here. They're not here yet.
That would be, excuse me, that would be a true delight for the listeners, I'm sure, and the viewers. This is a YouTube episode if you're listening only, by the way, guys. The link will be in the show notes if you can, if you want to see it. It'd be way more interesting. We'd have way more viewers with 3 beautiful girls and your wife running down the stairs. But oh well, I guess I'm not going to get that today.
Usually, my youngest is behind us, and coloring and all that. And we joke we color our coworker, and so, sometimes we post to family like, hey, social media would be like, hey, our crazy coworker did this today,
Right. Exactly. And she's the crazy one at the office, right?
Oh, yeah. She's so fun. Yeah,
that's great. Well,
what kind of job do you get to do where you get to do that,
No, we're blessed, man. We're so incredibly blessed. And I want that for others. It's been a while since I shared it, but the heart and passion that really drives me forward is bringing dads home. And I won't dive too much into that. I could do like a 45-minute presentation on why I think that's important. Kids typically have a very tight relationship with their moms. It's kind of built in. And I'll share this story. I spoke to a group of young men here a few days ago, and I shared this story. Matt, I don't know if you've heard it or not. Or sorry, Ben. But maybe the listeners will benefit in some way. But when I say bring dads home, why not bring moms home? Why not bring? Here's why. The Hallmark, the card company, Hallmark, right? They went to a hardened penitentiary with hundreds of the worst criminals in our culture who are under lock, many of them doing life sentences. And they went on Mother's Day and they said, hey guys, everybody send mom a card. 100% participation. True story. Every guy there sent a card to his mom. And they thought, wow, that was a huge success. Let's do it again on Father's Day. And you know how many guys participated?
10%. I don't know. I'm just guessing. 0.
None. The pile of cards didn't get touched. So when I say bringing dads home, that's what I'm talking about, right? Moms, you get it. Ladies, you grow up about the age of 12, you're ready to be a responsible adult and take care of business and do things right and straighten out that right man that's ready, to be straightened out. You guys get it. But man, if we can get dad under the roof in a lot of the problems we have as a culture, I argue, and excuse me, this is where I kind of get off into the weeds a little bit, but I argue we could fix the vast majority of cultural issues we're facing if we had responsible men. Come on, guys. Be a man, not a boy. Like that fixes a lot of problems. So we get a man under the roof with his wife and his kids. That's a powerful thing. That builds such a great foundation for the future of those kids. Fixes a whole lot of potential problems they could run into. And I'm not saying you're a bad dad if you're not able to do that. You're a good dad. You're a good mom. You're a good parent if you're providing for those kids and doing what you got to do to make ends meet. We applaud that. But it's a beautiful thing that's available to those of us who want to pursue it, to be under the same roof, doing like what Ben's doing with his family. It's there for you if you want it. We're not going to judge you if you don't, but it's there for you if you want it, unlike any other time before. So that's what it's all about. And I'm sure I'm going to get a little bit of hate mail, but hopefully I inspired enough people too to make up for it. You just never know how people are going to respond or misunderstand when you're speaking from the heart,
Yeah. Yeah. And, I could probably grow my business even faster and harder, but I just choose, family, and I work hard. I work very hard. But I also love to play hard with my kids,
That's right.
And so, there's just certain sacrifices I'm not willing to do, but
it's good for them to see dad working hard. You got 3 daughters.
100%.
You want them, you are the measuring stick. They're going to go out and find a dude. Like, wait, you're not a hard worker. You don't want your kids getting interested in some lazy bum, right? You want a hard worker. And that's what they've seen out of dad. So that's a great lesson for them to see you working hard. And I can't play right now. Sometimes dad's got work. That's good. That's healthy. Right? So great job, man. Great job.
Thanks, man. Yep. My 9-year-old.
Seriously, can't wait to meet your family. You guys are in Georgia. Our next event is in just drive down to Florida, man. If we're allowed to do it, who knows? We're
already planning on being there. So
beautiful.
We were trying to be at the last one. Obviously, didn't happen. So we're hoping our whole family is actually going to come down.
I do know the next one's going to be huge. Wherever we end up doing it, every event that's allowed to happen is going to be huge because people are ready to just be around people again. Unless we've lost all our social skills, that's actually a risk too. A bunch of introverts in this community. It's so funny, these live events, and I say this not just for you and I, but for the listeners too. Uh, I'd say we're about 70% introverts. Extroverts do great in business too, but introverts are kind of drawn to this. Hey, I'm going to sit behind my computer and make money and I don't have to deal with people. At least that's what we think. We find out that's not true very quickly. But when we come to live events, all these introverts are thinking, I'm the only one that's uncomfortable here. And it's like, no, about 70, 80% of us are very uncomfortable in a big crowd, but we get through it. And by the end of it, we're like family every time. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing that happens. But well, I probably need to wrap this one up. This has been a good long episode, I think, but a very, very good, packed full of practical and hopefully very motivational stuff. So good job, Ben. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So fun to chat. We could probably chat for hours.
Oh man, I'm sure we could. But I've actually got another episode starting here in 2 minutes. So I got to wrap this one up. But God bless all the business building warriors out there who are listening and who spent some time with us today. We're here for you. Don't forget the show notes, silentjim.com, or just go near where you're watching this or listening to this video. You'll see links to everything we talked about today as well. Or send us an email too if we forgot anything, left anything out. Happy to help you out. But to our guests, thank you today. To tell your wife and kids, thank you for loaning you to us and for staying at Target a little longer so we could have a quiet house. Although we'd love to have met them, that's okay. But God bless you and yours, Ben. And for all the listeners, God bless the business building warriors. We'll have another episode again real soon.